Hi everyone, I'm Jiru from HashKey Group. It's my honor to be here to give you a brief introduction to crypto regulations around the world. I know that you are all Web3 entrepreneurs and are keen to establish your own business. To run a successful business, except for those technical skills, it's also very important for you to know crypto regulations so that you can be fully compliant with different regulations in different places, manage and control the legal risks, and avoid any potential lawsuit or punishment. We only got 30 minutes today, so I'll only cover the basic structure and give you a general idea of the crypto regulations. Now let's begin. When it comes to crypto regulations, the first question that pops up in your mind must be, is crypto regulation a good thing or a bad thing? So in the first section, we will take a closer look at whether crypto regulation is good or bad. After understanding the pros and cons of crypto regulations, we will have a glance at the global map to better understand the whole picture and see different countries' attitudes toward crypto regulations. In the third section, we will pick up some popular jurisdictions and have a closer look at their regulatory framework to better understand how things work in those countries and regions. In the last section, we can see the new trends for crypto regulation this year and better understand where crypto regulation is headed so that we can prepare earlier for our business. Let's move to the first section, whether the regulation is good or bad. The year 2022 was very special. We have seen a series of failures of high-profile crypto companies. The 25 billion crypto lender Celsius failed and has been accused of misrepresenting its risk exposure. Three Arrows Capital, the 10 billion hedge fund, filed for bankruptcy in New York. Now FTX adds another major collapse. Many advocates use these events as a call for greater regulation. They insist regulation is good for the industry. First, more regulation can stabilize the market. More regulations could help reduce speculation among crypto assets and thus create more stability in such a volatile market. Meanwhile, regulations could also slow the roll of those trying to get rich quickly by predicting the next coin that goes to the moon. That's a good thing for long-term investors. Moreover, regulations can provide more clear guidance for market players. If the laws and regulations on crypto are vague, it will be very difficult for business owners to plan ahead. Better regulatory clarity gives business the information they need to make proper long-term plans. Besides, many argue that criminals use the anonymous nature of crypto to launder their illegal gains, which makes a regulation essential. There is a fear that cryptocurrency is being used to finance terrorism or support illegal activities. There is no doubt that regulation could help prevent those bad actors. Reducing risks and creating a safer ecosystem is another argument raised by people. There are many hidden risks that many investors don't even consider before their investment. These are things regulation could eventually address. Here are some anti-regulation arguments. First, many people worry that regulation might stifle innovation, and market players are scared to create new products or carry out innovative plans which are not good for the industry. Besides, new regulations could inevitably create some additional amount of paperwork. The biggest concern with such increased oversight is that the costs of compliance will be very burdensome for small players. Moreover, many think that the decentralized nature of digital currency is a big draw. It is central to the culture of crypto. It empowers individuals to manage their money without anyone watching over their shoulders, and it takes power away from big banks and corporations. However, regulation is centralized supervision. It is the total opposite of decentralization. It goes against the spirit of crypto. Lastly, many worry that stricter regulation in one jurisdiction will simply push the industry into more crypto friendly jurisdictions. Thus, they don't support their countries taking a stricter approach. Otherwise, the country will miss out on the economic benefits of this new industry. Ultimately, what matters is the nature of any new cryptocurrency regulation. Heavy-handed regulation that massively hampers the activities of legitimate projects could be damaging, but sensible regulation that weeds out bad players could create a safer and healthier environment where good projects could thrive. Now let's move to the second section. Let's take a look at a global map of crypto regulations to see different countries' attitudes toward this new industry. The green arrows mean that those countries or regions think that cryptocurrency is mostly legal and have formed their own regulatory framework. For example, the United States, Canada, Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Singapore, Thailand, South Korea, and most European countries like Germany, France, Italy, Netherlands, Spain, Switzerland, and the UK. The red parts are countries taking a totally opposite position towards cryptocurrency. These jurisdictions totally ban cryptocurrency and think it is mostly illegal. Countries like Egypt, Iran, and especially the Chinese mainland all strictly ban cryptocurrency. The yellow arrows are countries between the two. These countries hold major concerns about cryptocurrency while not banning it completely. Russia is one of them, as also Mexico and India. In this section, we can tell that some countries are crypto-friendly, while others are cracking down on it or even discouraging it. So it becomes significantly important to find a crypto-friendly jurisdiction before you start your business. Otherwise, those restricted regulatory environments will become a big obstacle to your success. Now let's move to the third section. I'll pick up some main jurisdictions and give you a more detailed introduction to their respective legal framework. The first one is the United States. The United States is home to many prominent blockchain companies, but the country still hasn't developed a clear regulatory framework for digital assets. For now, we all know that the United States has a federal system of government. So when talking about US regulation, we will always have to deal with both federal level and state level regulation. From the federal level, there are three main regulators: SEC, CFTC, and FinCEN. These regulators apply different regulatory approaches to digital assets. The SEC regards some crypto assets as securities. The CFTC regards crypto assets as commodities. FinCEN regards crypto assets as currency. For the SEC, its jurisdiction comes from Securities Act, according to which the SEC has jurisdiction only over securities. SEC will apply Howey test to analyze and determine whether a specific token is a security. If it is, then according to Section 5 of the Securities Act, every offer or sale, or we normally call it an ICO, shall either be registered with SEC or satisfy an exemption. Failing to do so, a company may face challenges from the SEC. The most famous one is the Ripple case in late 2020. In that case, the SEC alleged that Ripple had raised over $1.3 billion in unregistered securities offering of XRP. But Ripple argued that the SEC failed to give fair notice to market participants about which digital assets they would consider to be securities. Ripple's general counsel said, "We are fighting to get the right result for the industry. The industry shouldn't be left to guess which tokens will show up one day in the crosshairs of the SEC and which tokens won't. The lawsuit is still going on. Let's wait and see." The SEC also brings exchange platforms that list security tokens into its supervision. Before an exchange platform can trade security tokens, it shall either be registered as National Securities Exchange or an alternative trading system. As we talked previously, the SEC only has authority to regulate digital assets that are securities. So if the exchanges only list non-security tokens, they do not need to be registered. Most of the exchanges in the market belong to this category, like Coinbase and Kraken. However, if the exchange lists and provides security tokens, it shall be registered with SEC. Currently, no crypto exchange has chosen to be registered as NSE because the obligations are very burdensome. Some chose to apply to be alternative trading system like INX, Securitize, and T0. So to conclude the SEC part, if you would like to set up a company offering tokens in the United States, you should always first to analyze whether the token is a security. And if it is, the issuer needs to register the token offering with the SEC. Meanwhile, any relevant exchange shall be registered with the SEC. Now let's move to the second regulator, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, CFTC. The CFTC regulates commodity futures, swaps, options, and other derivatives, and also it has a general enforcement authority to police fraud and manipulation. The most famous case is Tether. In 2020, CFTC issued orders against Tether. The order required Tether to pay $4 million because of its untrue statements. As we may know, Tether always claimed to customers that it maintained sufficient US dollar reserves to back every USDT. But CFTC found such representation is false, and Tether's reserves were not fully backed. Also, Tether falsely represented that it would undergo routine audits, but in fact, the reserves were not audited. In the Tether's case, CFTC exercised its enforcement authority over fraud. So the key takeaway for the CFTC part is you should register with CFTC if you conduct any business related to crypto derivatives, and you should avoid any fraud and manipulation during your daily operation. The third regulator is Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, FinCEN. FinCEN's task is to implement policies to prevent money laundering, It regulates digital assets for AML purpose. Besides AML issues, FinCEN also regulates money service business. It considers exchangers and administrators of convertible virtual currency as money service business, and all money service business needs to be registered with FinCEN. Now let's see a real case related to CFTC and FinCEN, BitMEX. BitMEX has been offering cryptocurrency derivatives on its platform since 2014. It is offering a facility to process swaps without being approved by CFTC. Also, it was not registered with FinCEN as a money service business. Moreover, it failed to implement and maintain proper anti-money laundering procedures. So finally, in August 2021, a federal court ordered BitMEX to pay $100 million for settlement with FinCEN and CFTC. To conclude FinCEN part, to avoid any regulatory risk from FinCEN, always remember to implement proper AML procedures and go registration as money service business if you substantially carry out any business of exchange or administration of crypto in the United States. That is all for federal level regulation. The next section is state level regulation. Each state decides on cryptocurrency regulation by itself, resulting in different regulatory environments across the country. Some states are trying to create a very favorable and friendly environment to market players, while the others are trying to impose more regulations and restrictions. New York is the most aggressive state in regulating digital assets. The state's regulator is New York Department of Financial Service, NYDFS. It created a licensing regime called BitLicense. BitLicense is broadly required for a market player to engage in any virtual asset business in New York. On the opposite side of the spectrum is Wyoming. Wyoming has exempted virtual currency transactions from its money transmitter regulations. Finishing the US, now let's move to the second country, Singapore. We will look at the regulator and Singapore's regulatory approach in this part. The main regulator in Singapore is the Monetary Authority of Singapore, MAS. It specifically addresses the issues and licensing requirements of companies that want to set up a crypto business. This one is the chairman of MAS. In terms of Singapore's regulations on crypto, it has its own regulatory approach. Cryptocurrencies are not being treated as the equivalent of money. Depending on the characteristics of each cryptocurrency, it may be treated as a regulated product or else as an unregulated digital token. An unregulated product usually means a digital token that is strictly used for utility purpose. The regulated product can be divided into three categories, including capital market product, e-money, or a digital payment token. The capital market product shall be subject to the Securities and Futures Act. Under the SFA, cryptocurrencies could potentially have similar features as the conventional capital market products. So the conventional requirements could also apply to those cryptocurrencies. A cryptocurrency may sometimes fall within the definition of e-money or digital payment token. If the crypto is a e-money and a person carries on the business of e-money issuance, then it is required to apply for a license under the Payment Service Act. Also, if a crypto is a DPT and the person is carrying out a DPT service, like dealing in DPTs, transfer of DPTs, it shall also obtain a license under the Payment Service Act. The next country is the Chinese mainland. Chinese mainland is one of several jurisdictions that strictly ban crypto assets. Though it has not promulgated any special legislation on digital assets. Since 2013, the Chinese government has issued several notices regarding cryptocurrency, adopting an increasingly tight approach. Last year, the Chinese authorities issued a notice, further tightening its controls. The notice reiterates the Chinese government's position that cryptocurrency is not a legal tender and cannot be circulated freely in the market. The last one is Hong Kong. Based on one country, two systems, Hong Kong developed a totally different regulatory approach compared with the Chinese mainland. It strongly supports the development of the digital asset industry. At the recent FinTech Week in Hong Kong, Paul Chen, Hong Kong Financial Secretary, emphasized that the digital transformation of Hong Kong financial service is a central priority. Last October, Hong Kong government issued a policy declaration on the development of virtual assets, announcing that it wants to become an international hub for virtual assets. So in this part, let's take a look at Hong Kong's regulator, current regulatory approach, and future development. The main regulators in Hong Kong include Hong Kong MA, SFC, and FSTB. The Hong Kong Monetary Authority is city's central bank, determines whether or not the crypto is considered money, and regulates the industry to promote the stability of the financial system. The Securities and Futures Commission, Hong Kong's market regulator, regulates those crypto assets that are securities and future contracts with the purpose of protecting investors' rights. The Financial Service and Treasury Bureau, Hong Kong's Policy Bureau, regulates this industry at a higher level by setting out more genetic rules. In terms of Hong Kong's regulatory approach, currently there are three main activities that will be subject to regulation. For those managers of virtual asset-related fund, if the fund is investing only in virtual assets that are not securities, then no license is required for fund managers. However, if the fund is investing in virtual assets, in addition to traditional securities, a Type 9 license will be required for a VA fund manager. For those distributors of VA-related fund, a Type 1 license is required. The new joint circular issued by Hong Kong MA and SFC in January 2022 imposed additional requirements on the VA fund distributors, including KYC procedures, virtual asset knowledge test, proper due diligence, and adequate disclosures. For trading platform operators, currently, if the platform is only offering and listing tokens that are not securities, it is not required to be licensed with SFC. However, if a platform in Hong Kong offers trading of at least one security token, then the platform operator would fall within the jurisdiction of the SFC and require a license for Type 1 and Type 7. In the future, there will be many new regulatory developments in Hong Kong. The most notable one is the introduction of Virtual Asset Service Provider regime, which will be effective from June 1st, 2023. Last month, SFC published a consultation paper on the proposed regulatory requirements for virtual asset trading platform operators. The aim of the consultation paper is to obtain feedback from the market on the implementation of the VASP licensing regime. The consultation paper broadly covers two areas: licensing and conduct requirements concerning platform operators, and anti-money laundering and counter-financing of terrorism requirements applicable to virtual asset service providers. Once it becomes effective, all platform operators shall be required to obtain a license from SFC. If the platform operator also lists and trades security tokens, then except for this VASP license, it will additionally be required for Type 1 and Type 7 license. Believing that after all these regulatory developments, Hong Kong will establish a more clear regulatory framework and provide more guidance for Web3 market players. After knowing the different regulations in those main jurisdictions, now let's take a look at the crypto regulation trends in 2023. Here are three key trends that will occur this year. The first is crypto regulation will become more stringent. FTX bankruptcy has sent ripples across the global financial community. Many countries and financial regulatory organizations will be inspired to take actions to protect investors. Regulators in different jurisdictions are intended to create more strict regulations in response to the latest cryptocurrency scandals. The second is global organizations will push for more global regulation. The International Organization of Securities Commission, IOSCO, is a powerful global financial organization with members from all over 100 countries. The chairman stated that he thinks IOSCO should be regulating the crypto market in 2023. He sees the crypto industry as one of the important 3 C's that IOSCO should focus on this year, including COVID-19, climate, and cryptocurrency. Also, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, is concerned about the crypto market's potential for facilitating money laundering and terrorist financing, so it seeks a global effort to supervise crypto activities. We can tell in 2023, those global organizations will push for more global crypto regulations. The last one will be more countries will implement and enforce their own crypto regulations. From the previous section, we have already known the basic regulatory framework for some main jurisdictions. Due to the rapid crypto market growth, many countries have created their own crypto regulation. Many countries are also planning to develop new regulations in 2023. It's important for Web3 startups to note how widely these rules vary from one jurisdiction to the other. To conclude today's talk, crypto regulation is complex and evolving. Different countries have different approaches, attitudes, and considerations when designing their crypto regulatory framework. However, there is no doubt that proper regulations will always benefit the industry in the long run. Meanwhile, as this illustration shows, all of us are hoping for regulators around the world to give more clarity to this industry. We hope all the regulators can always keep in mind that the point of regulating an industry is not to extinguish it, but to promote it. You might forget most of the contents of today's talk. It doesn't matter. Just remember, as a Web3 entrepreneur, you should always be familiar with the legal and regulatory framework of the jurisdiction where you are going to run your business, and always assess legal and compliance risk before you take any actions. That's all for today's talk. Thanks a lot, everyone. At the very end, I will leave you an assignment. Please think about a country or region in which you would like to run your business. Then try to conduct some preliminary research to understand whether this country or region is crypto friendly or not, and get a basic idea of its regulatory regime on crypto assets. That's all for today's talk. Thanks, everyone.